I don't think Duke should be a number 1 overall seed. I don't think the way they have played since Zion was injured, they've been 15 points worse, guys, on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball without Zion Williamson. Coach K saying he's probably not going to be back for Saturday against UNC. We'll see whether or not that happens. If it does, it means Zion will have missed 3 full weeks of basketball action. And I think it reignites the question that has been lingering for a while, which is, why would Zion come back and play college basketball if you didn't show up for your senior night? I know he's a freshman, but this was his opportunity to come out, play 15 minutes or so against what should have been a bad Wake game, Wake team, and say goodbye to the Cameron Crazies. I think that Zion's people either are not being 100% honest with Coach K, and that's possible, right? Zion's people, his crew, is saying, yeah, he's going to come back. Give us some time. Let us work his way back. And then they're just going to keep saying, you know what, we're actually going to shut it down. Or Zion and his crew have already told Coach K, hey, we're not coming back, but don't publicly announce this to anybody. It's going to be 3 weeks now that they have set out. Why, if the argument is, why would you ever come back? And that was the argument after he tweaked his knee. Now the argument, I think that's a good one, is he actually going to come back? Doug, do you think, is my conspiracy theory that Coach K is trying to preserve seeding and that he knows that Zion is not going to come back? Is that a crazy one in your mind?
No, I mean, Jim Boeheim did that. He twice had, his center. One time, Fab Melo, this is going back in 2012, Syracuse is one of the best teams in the country, and Fab Melo was suspended for the tournament. I don't believe that news came out until after Selection Sunday. And then if you go back even before that, he had a big guy, Arenze Onuaku. And I'm going to say this is like 2009. They were a 1 seed, and he was like, well, he might play, he might not play. I think he's playing. I just think that, it's a hard one in that he probably could have played last night. And now it's like, all right, well, now you want to play him against North Carolina, but you want to go 0 to 100 and play him in that kind of game. I don't know.
That's why to me, Doug, I thought he would come back for this game, play like 10 or 15 minutes, say hi, say goodbye to everybody at Cameron Indoor, and then you would feel like you had worked him up a little bit. So maybe he doesn't play his normal load, but he can play 22 or 23 minutes against UNC, and you can at least show everybody, hey, he's back, and you also have a built-in excuse. Then if you lose to UNC, now I think it's a little bit strange that you bring him back when he might have to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, boom, 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 if you're trying to work him back into shape, when that's not really the way it's going to go at the NCAA tournament. So the question I have is, if you're on the committee, there's zero doubt that Duke is a much worse team without Zion. Does Duke deserve a number 1 seed given the fact that he's going to miss the final 3 weeks of the season, even if he returns for the ACC? And if he doesn't return for the ACC, I don't think you can listen to Coach K and seed Duke as if he's coming back.
Yeah, if he doesn't play, I think you got to treat him as if he's not playing, and then you'd move him to the 2 or the 3 line or whatever. Duke has a tendency to get the benefit of the doubt.
A tendency. They always get the benefit of the doubt.
So, I guess we'll see. I mean, they don't have the depth. And yesterday, Trey Jones, their point guard, it looked like he tweaked his ankle. So, I don't think there's any doubt that if he doesn't play, if they don't play, that you can't move him down a line or 2. But now, are you one of these guys? Weren't you one of these guys who thinks he shouldn't play?
Well, I mean, look, I thought that if I were giving him advice, and we don't really know what happened to the knee, but the fact that he's going to miss 3 weeks suggests it's more significant than what was initially said, right? Or else that he just doesn't want to come back, because they're not even running him in basketball practice right now. They initially said, oh, it's not that severe of an injury, right? They said a grade 1 sprain or something like that, right? I think was their statement. And obviously I'm not a doctor, but missing 3 weeks of basketball action for that makes it seem more severe. But look, I think it's even easier to make the case that he shouldn't come back and play if you're going to sit out the rest of the regular season. why would you come back for maybe you just decide to come back for the NCAA tournament and try to win 6 games in a row?
Like, look, if you want to go business perspective,
yeah.
If these people that are like the business side of it, well, the business side of it is better to play because as much as you and I know who he is, and he's starting to get to be a mainstream story, he's just not. I mean, there's a I mean, what is the stat that the Pro Bowl would draw twice as many people as even that Duke Carolina game, which is the most watched game in college basketball in the regular season. There's a lot of people who haven't. So in terms of his brand knowledge, we've seen this before from Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving only played like 8 games for Duke. He came back and played, lost the NCAA tournament. But it helps in terms of the business side. It helps your brand to play if you go to a Final Four, and then if you win a national championship, that'll help. But I mean, look, the reason he came back and play is that's the whole reason he went to Duke. He didn't have to go to Duke. He didn't have to play college basketball. He's helped his stock, but forget about your stock. You get a chance to play for national championship, play in a Final Four, play in the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, I think you should. I think you should. Like, I don't know when we've gotten to the point where playing basketball is some incredibly dangerous. It's not playing on a freeway. It's not like a 1 in 4 shot that Frogger doesn't work out. You're playing basketball, you'll be fine. And oh yeah, by the way, worst case scenario, even if you're not fine, it's not like it's going to hurt your draft stock. It's just not. I mean, Blake Griffin didn't play his first year. Joel Embiid didn't play like his first 2 years. He's, it's a knee sprain. You should play. It's a once in a lifetime experience, and that's the whole reason you went to Duke.
Okay, but he hasn't come back now, and it looks like he's not going to come back for 3 weeks. That gives me apprehension. It makes me think, based on the way Duke has looked without him, that they're not a 1 seed. Who would your 1 seeds be right now? You watch college basketball a ton. Which 4 teams would you put on the one line?
I mean, yeah, obviously you look at Virginia, who Duke has beaten twice, but Virginia would easily replace him if not already be on that one line. You got to see what happens with North Carolina, right? I think Tennessee would be, to me, and then you have Gonzaga, and then the only other team that I think has a chance would be Michigan. I know they lost at home to Michigan State, but they got another shot at Michigan State coming up. I do think that.
You wouldn't put Gonzaga. Would you put Gonzaga on the one line or not?
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, Gonzaga beat Duke this year, lost to They
lost to Tennessee and they lost to
and North Carolina.
Yeah,
and North Carolina. Yeah, Gonzaga's they're a top 5 team in the country, no question.
What about Kentucky?
They've actually just been okay at times. I think they're good. I think they're a team that could win the national championship, but I don't think they've earned a 1 seed, especially. They thumped Tennessee and then they lay an egg at Tennessee. I know we want to take away the LSU home loss, but I would put them very easily on the 2 line, maybe the 3 line. But it doesn't mean they can't win a national title. But yes, who should be on the 1 line? Like if Michigan can win at Michigan State, can win a Big Ten tournament title, I'd very easily move them ahead.
As we come down the stretch of the college basketball season, I don't know if you've been paying a lot of attention, or even if you talked about it on your show, but I'm curious what you think. The Adidas guys who are getting sent to prison. You went through the recruiting process at D1 basketball. Do you think it's crazy that these Adidas guys are going to spend time in prison for trying to steer top players to big programs?
I do think if you look at it that way, yes, but isn't it because don't they all go to jail for lying? Is that really what it comes down to, right? Like at the end of the day.
Well, they were convicted of the way that the FBI prosecuted them was they got a conviction for fraud, and the way that they said that the schools were defrauded was that because they were paying players, they were not eligible to play, and so they were being. It was a really aggressive way to read the fraud statute. And effectively what happened was a jury agreed and basically made these NCAA rules into the equivalent of law because these guys are going to prison over it, which I think is a dangerous precedent. But
they're basically buying and selling players.
Correct. But I think in general that most people out there don't necessarily think you should go to prison for that.
I mean, I would generally agree with you. On the other hand, like this is all the NCAA has ever wanted, right?
It's great for the NCAA.
Is subpoena power. That's the whole thing. Is they've often been clawless in that they can't, and now they're going to get Will Wade, the LSU head coach, and Sean Miller, to where they can't perjure themselves. I think that's that's the win for them.
Do you think those guys, if you are the AD at LSU or you are the AD at Arizona, they have stood behind Sean Miller through a lot of tempestuousness. Now, last year they thought, I think with DeAndre Ayton, no, we got a pretty decent team. Maybe we can make a run in the NCAA tournament. The Pac-12 is an unmitigated disaster right now. Will Wade's having a heck of a year for LSU. Do you think those guys survive going on the witness stand and testifying, or do you think it's going to be hard for them to keep their jobs?
I think it'll be hard to keep it. Prevailing wisdom is it's hard to keep your job, but like, look, the truth will set you free, right? If you didn't pay anybody and you didn't offer anybody money, if there's no tape existing of you offering money, I'll just say this about basketball. Basketball is one of those deals where everybody says they're getting paid, everybody says they're getting offered money, and most times they don't. Like, it's usually it's a lot like guys with women, half as many, maybe even less. Whereas women with guys twice, three times as many. That's just kind of the way it works. So, yeah, I'm like, look, prevailing wisdom is you think they're done, their goose is cooked. But I can tell you, like, as much as people think, well, the Pac-12 is an unmitigated disaster, like, yeah, that's because Arizona lost their entire team because everybody thought Sean Miller was getting fired and they were going to lose their entire – and they lost the recruiting class. Next year's recruiting class is incredible. So they should be back. They should be fine. But it all depends on what happens, when he swears in the Bible. So I think it's fascinating. Hey, I want to ask you, so where did you lay the blame? Where do you lay the blame for the LeBron thing?
For the Lakers this year?
Yeah.
I think that if you go back and look at their entire season, it was the going public with the Anthony Davis trade that totally blew up everything in the Laker locker room. I think those young guys, I don't know what was being said behind the scenes, but LeBron may well have been like, hey, you guys got a lot of they're one of the reasons why I came there. You can see how he could have been selling the young guys on how much he believes in them. And then as soon as that goes public, those young guys, I think, just went into a shell. I think the team chemistry just blew up. And so I think if the Anthony Davis trade talk never happens, I still don't think they'd have been that good, but I think they would have been the 7 or the 8 seed and had some decent chemistry down the stretch.
Listen, I mean, injuries are the real story. They were actually playing really well. They're playing great defense. But and I think a good portion of the blame goes at the feet of Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson, who put together not only a flawed roster, but one that didn't really engage LeBron, right? I think they thought, well, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he's rep by Clutch Sports. This will be great. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's cost them like 4 games. They let Brook Lopez walk out the door. They needed a big body stretch 5. They never got one. They had too many older pieces on the bench that, don't have it, and too many younger guys, and they had some injuries. But I do think a huge chunk of the blame is on LeBron, and when it really went bad is when he got hurt before the trade talk. Because when he got hurt, he went and did his Hollywood thing.
He didn't hang out with the team. Shows up with wine at the game.
Shows up with wine? Like, young guys, if you want to take the millennials, like these young dudes are the classic millennials, right? They're a little overly sensitive, but they're also very perceptive. And when you're reading a room, and it doesn't matter what LeBron says. And by the way, he's never said he's all in on these guys. He's never said none of them are on any of his shows. The Shop, he's got like 5 shows.
Yeah.
None of them are on it.
Yeah,
none of them. And then he gets hurt. He shows up with a goblet of wine at game time. He's not invested in the team.
The showing up with the wine glass was, I know people like on social media were like, oh, this is so cool. I mean, to me, that was just utterly disrespectful to show up, as a pro athlete carrying a huge goblet of wine as you walk down the hallway. Was just an utterly ridiculous move. LeBron has had a lot since he got to LA, but that was maybe the king of utterly ridiculous moves.
It's super cliche, but the old "he's gone Hollywood," like he's gone Hollywood. I mean, now all of a sudden he's listening to other people's music.
You know what's You know what's funny about that too? You know who else has gone Hollywood? I was reading an article about it. Jeff Bezos. Before the Amazon CEO, before he gets into like aggressively Amazon Prime, producing all these shows and spending a lot of time in Hollywood, he's like a monk, right? Like he's sitting around trying to figure out how to make Amazon as successful as possible. Then he has an affair with a woman, like throws everything in his life into an uproar. There's no doubt to me that Bezos and LeBron have both, but you usually think of guys that being that age that it's not going to impact them in the same way. But it is kind of crazy. I know you got to hop a flight. We got to get out. But thanks for hopping on early this morning.
Anytime, dude. We got to catch up more. We got to do this more. Not just me commenting on your show and you commenting on my show.
Yeah.
Be sure to catch live editions of OUTKICK the Coverage with Clay Travis weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and the iHeartRadio app.
Do you guys buy into my theory that there may be a little bit of gamesmanship going on from Mike Krzyzewski, and he might either he knows that Zion is not coming back, which I think is possible, or Zion's crew keeps kind of giving a little bit of, hey, we're not quite ready. It's going to be over 3 weeks now, it appears, between when Zion was injured and when he's actually going to play, if he's going to play at all. And I think Coach K is trying to preserve an overall number 1 seed, even if Duke doesn't deserve it without Zion. Do you buy into that theory, Danny G?
Well, it's not like a college coach to just sit there and lie right to our faces.
Yeah, I'd never see that.
I don't think you're crazy because you may be onto something that he's trying to protect that number 1 seed. But I do think Zion will be back for the NCAA tournament. I mean, Duke is, 3-2 without Zion now. They're just a good team without him, a great team with him. They can't really play small ball from what I've seen without him in the lineup. So he needs to come back for his teammates and the fan base. And I think DBAP, he's not going to DBAP, so he's going to be back for the big tournament.
I think if he were going to come back, this would have been the perfect game to bring him back because Wake is not very good, notwithstanding the fact they almost won this game, which I think speaks to how mediocre Duke can be without Zion. It would have been relatively easy for Duke to bring him back for what is basically his senior day, right? He's going
but
pro
if he's
after
80%, say he's 80%.
If he's 80%, then he's not going to be back for the ACC tournament either.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think he could get to 100%.
He's not suddenly going to become a lot better.
Well, Coach K said he's in the 4th phase of the 4-phase recovery system. So with that said, why would you push him right now if he needs another week?
I just don't think he's going to play. That's right. That's my answer. Is I don't think if he's not ready to go now to come out and give you 15 minutes against a bad Wake team, then I certainly don't think they're suddenly going to bring him and put him in the game against UNC on the road, right? In a really hard-fought, tough game where he hasn't gotten any seasoning at all since his injury. And then are you going to bring him back for the ACC basketball tournament when you play back-to-back games? Where you would think if you're going to ease somebody back into play that you would want him to be like, have time to recover after each game instead of, boom, you suddenly play a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night games in high-stakes, high-tension environments off your home floor. I don't really buy into it. What about you, Eddie Garcia? You buy into this?
Do I buy into the conspiracy theory? I don't. If Coach K had said he's not coming back until the NCAA tournament, then of course I would totally buy into it. But saying he's coming back for the ACC tournament,
he said he thinks he's coming back. He gave himself a lot of space. He said, I don't think he's going to play on Saturday, which would probably mean he's not going to play, right? And then he'll have a whole week where he won't hardly have to talk to the media. And then what are they going to do? Are they going to bring him back for like 5 minutes in a game on Thursday and argue? Because remember, they're going to get whatever it is, the double bye. They're going to finish probably 3rd in the ACC. I just think that it's going to be hard to argue. We'll continue this discussion, by the way. But first, hour 2 on Wednesday is always the anonymous mailbag.
Be sure to catch live editions of OUTKICK the Coverage with Clay Travis weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific.
It's time for the anonymous mailbag. We do it every single hour 2 of the Wednesday edition of the show. Go ahead and cue the music, boys.
You've got mail, mother.
Anonymous mailbag.
If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it.
877-996-6369 is the phone number. You can call in. We can see whether Dub can do his job or not. We start in North Carolina. North Carolina, what have you got for me?
Hey, Clay.
What's up?
Recently engaged. I personally have 5 nieces and nephews. the wife-to-be is debating of whether they should be involved in any of the wedding festivities, including the ceremony and the reception. What are your thoughts on that?
How old are the nieces and nephews?
Ages from 9 is the oldest to 3.
9 is the oldest to 3. What's the boy-girl situation?
3 boys, they're the youngest. 2 girls are the oldest.
And the 2 girls, okay, so here's the easy solution. Thanks for the call. Yeah, they should be involved. And you have the 2 girls as the youngest are the ring bearers, and then the others, if they want to stand up at the edge of the bridal party, if the 9-year-old, for instance, is old enough, or the groomsman to stand up there and be on the edge alongside of everybody else, perfect. You do it. The youngest kids, you have them walk down the aisle with the ring. If everything kind of falls apart, or they can be rose flower girls, rose petal girls, whatever else. When they get to the end of the aisle, you have their mom and dad sitting near the front. They just run to them and sit there. Boom, you don't have to worry about them standing up for the ceremony. 100%. That's an easy call. All right, Texas, what you got for me?
All right, thank you, Clay, for taking my call. Just real quick, I have a 9-year-old daughter. She's actually very, very honest. Of course, the oldest usually is. When she gets home, and I ask her, about how her day's going and all. And she tells me, hey, I was very excited to go to the computer lab today. But my teacher, because of everybody else, our teacher punished everybody and made us write, I will walk into the class quietly, blah, 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 100 times on the board. On paper, you know how that goes. And my thing is my daughter, she never questioned the superiors, and she's like, hey, why was I responsible for everybody else's actions? I try to tell her, that's just how life goes, but do you think I should bring it up to the teacher's attention? Because my daughter, when she misbehaves, she'll tell me, but she told me straight out, hey, I had nothing to do with it. Why should I be punished? Is it something that I should bring up, to the teacher, or should I just not be a DBAP? Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, I think when to bring up issues with a teacher, especially elementary school teacher, is always a tough call. I think that's pretty standard that the team, everybody remembers being in the cafeteria at some point. Your class was too loud, and you might have not individually been loud, but everybody gets punished. Certainly, it's something that happens in the world of sports all the time. If only the guys who were causing trouble on a team had to run laps, then part of the management of the team would be less significant. People wouldn't look out for themselves in the same way. I mean, that's the idea, that it's team building to hold everybody responsible from the strongest link to the weakest link. I'd be more troubled by the idea of still doing write-offs in this day and age. I did a lot of write-offs back in the day. I'm sure you did too. I thought those were kind of getting phased out because it's just mindless absurdity. You don't really gain much from writing something because your class misbehaved over and over and over again. And I thought most teachers had kind of given up that concept because you're not learning anything. It's just a total waste of time. That's what I'd be more troubled by here. Ohio, what you got for me?
Hey, Clay, I love your show, buddy. Hey, question for you. I remove asbestos and mold, been doing it for a couple of years, and I got a 45-cent raise. Should I shut her down and find another job or what? It came out to be about a 2% cost of living income raise.
You got a 45-cent an hour raise? Were you asking for a raise, or did this come out of nowhere?
We get it every January.
So you make what now, and you got a raise? Just tell me. You make hourly salary of what?
25,
and you got a 45-cent raise per hour. And what do you work? 40 hours, or do you work 50? Like, what's the math here? 40 hours?
Yeah.
All right, thanks for the call. I'm going to try to do the math live here so I don't screw it up. I got my calculator out because the last time I tried to do this, I messed up the math. All right, that's an $18 a week raise. Let's figure the guy works an average of 50 weeks. That's a $900 raise over the course of the year. I think if you are getting valued in that way, it's a 45-cent. I mean, $18 extra a week to me is a sign that you're not that valued at your job right now. Now, some people out there are like, oh, you got to stick it out. Like, this is a great environment to find jobs in right now. So if you get a raise every year, and you know you're going to get one every January, a 45-cent raise, $18 extra. for the week. I don't think there are that many people out there that they're like, oh, if I make $18 more this week, my life is going to fundamentally change. So if you were expecting more, I'd be out there looking for a better job. And some people say, oh, you're expecting too much here. I don't think so. I have high expectations for all of you out there listening. I want you to be as wildly successful as you possibly can. But if your boss is consistently not valuing your work and not rewarding you for what you are doing, then you have to make a decision. Do I love what I do so much that the salary is not that important? And there are certainly people out there who do that, right? If you're a school teacher, there's a lot of school teachers listening to me right now. You're in a tough spot because you really don't get paid based on merit, right? And that's why I would have been driven insane being a school teacher, because even if you're infinitely better than everybody else who is working at your school, you're going to get that 2% raise every year, that 1.5%, whatever the state legislature has agreed to pay you or the local government has agreed to pay you. All of those things are complicated, but you don't really get rewarded based on your overall performance. It's more of, if you've been here long enough, that's why you should get a promotion. And honestly, this is what I ended up writing and making a living writing about sports. But the reason why I didn't go straight to a newspaper and just major in journalism and go straight to a newspaper out of college was I went to law school instead. But also because old school journalism, you used to have to work a long time to work your way up to having a job. And very often, like if you were a columnist, it was predicated on seniority, not talent. And I'm of the belief that talent should dictate over seniority. If you're better than somebody else, I don't care that you haven't been there as long. That's just me. I understand other people value the length of time that you've been there. So I would be looking for another job if I got a 45-cent raise. And I've been here. It's not just me talking out randomly. When I left my local radio gig, they offered me a $20 a day raise. So I was going to make $100 more a week. As a percentage of my overall income, I thought that was an insult. I could have gone and gotten a job working fast food for a couple of extra hours a week and made more money than what I was getting. So I think at some point you have to value your own labor and you have to believe in yourself. And if you're an employee who's not getting paid what you think you're worth, you need to find another gig. Unless, again, you just absolutely love the job and you're not doing it primarily as a capitalist to try to make as much money as you can off of your labor. Michigan, what you got for me?
Hey, Clay, headed to Nashville in July to throw a bachelor party. So I have to ask the king of Nashville himself how we can still go with the motto of DBAP. But we have a few married guys, so we also do have to SBAP and not have any marks or diseases coming back with.
Yeah, thanks for the call. So DBAP, for those of you who don't know, I have to shorten it here. Don't be a pussy willow or add on to it. The willow is added. SBAP, sometimes be a pussy willow. So like if there's a man-eating crocodile swimming in a lake, somebody might say, hey, I dare you to go jump in that lake. Well, they can hit you with the DBAP, but you'd be like, well, sometimes you got to be a pussy willow. So if you're a married guy, you don't want to go off the hook here on a bachelor party. Nashville, I think, is a bachelorette party destination. A lot of people listen to me right now. You might have girlfriends, wives, fiancés who have done their bachelorette party in Nashville. I don't think for bachelor party's sake, Nashville is as good of a destination. Because my argument is, like, the strip clubs here, they have the 3-foot rule or the 5-foot rule or whatever else. They're not really that exciting of places to go to. You'd never go there. Now, maybe you want to go downtown and just kind of chase the bachelorette parties because there are a ton of those. They're everywhere. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think it's more of a bachelorette party destination. I say that because I don't think of Nashville as being that wild of a town. And that's good, I think, if you're a bachelorette party because it's not dangerous, really safe downtown. The women are all, you can go from one bar to another, and if you get split up, you're not really worried about it. I think Nashville is an awesome town to come visit. I'm not sure it'd be my top choice for a bachelor party. So I think you'll actually be safe. I think you'll actually be – it's hard to get into significant trouble unless you're trying to chase the bachelorette party. And by the way, this is why I always tell women, this is always a big topic. Men go on bachelor parties, and some women are like, oh, he better not go to a strip club. Oh, there better not be any strippers. Oh, if they go to – you should want your man to go to a strip club. It's a lot harder to pick up a stripper than it is to pick up a random girl at a bar when you're out with a bunch of dudes. I don't know why women aren't smarter about this. If your man is in a strip club, as soon as his money runs out, that woman has no interest in him. And women in strip clubs get hit on all the time, and the odds of a stripper leaving with your man are pretty low. Just overall, if you're just playing odds, even though they're naked there, and even though they may be dancing and everybody's drinking and having a good time, strippers by and large are not going to go home with a big group of bachelors. It's almost unheard of to pull off a group of strippers leaving with you unless you're filthy rich. Now, if your man's filthy rich, then he can get into anything. It doesn't matter where he goes. But if you're a normal guy, most strippers stop paying attention to you when you run out of money. At a normal bar, it's infinitely easier to pick up a girl than it is at a normal strip club. So I always think that girls have it backwards when they're like, oh, I'm worried about him going to a strip club. No. You should be worried about him going to a normal bar. It's a lot easier to pick up girls there. Just a word of advice for the women out there listening who are, I think a lot of times get this thing wrong. You just keep your man out of the strip club. You keep him in the bar instead. A lot easier to pick up girls in the bar. Much, much easier. Let's go to, Las Vegas. What's up, Las Vegas?
Hey, Clay. So I got a 2-year-old, and my wife is pregnant again with our second child. And today we just found out that my sister-in-law might be going to prison for 1 to 3 years, and her 3 kids might be displaced. She wants to take them in. I'm working 2 jobs as it is. It's hard enough to be with my family. So what should I do about this situation?
How old are the kids that you would be taking in?
9, 5, and 4.
Does your wife work?
My wife, right now, she receives a residual income. She's a real estate agent, so she's getting residually paid. But my income, it kind of outweighs. She's smarter because she has stocks and everything like that, so she has the money. We can do it, but it's not about that. It's more or less should.
What kind of place? Where do you live right now? Are you in an apartment, condo, house? What's your living situation?
Condo.
And how many bedrooms?
2-bedroom condo.
2 bedroom?
2.
And you're going to have a baby.
Sir.
When's the baby due?
July 4th, actually.
Well, congratulations on baby number 2. That's a heck of a celebration.
I appreciate that.
All right, so and your sister-in-law, you said, who's going to have to go to prison. She's a single mom.
Yes.
And she's being sentenced to when?
As early as Friday.
Oh wow! So you got to make this decision really quickly. And she's going to get.
The
you said
DA
one.
Actually called. The DA actually called my grandmother-in-law and just spoke with her about the incident, and it's turned into something else. They're going to prosecute regardless.
Okay. Thanks for the call. And this is a tough one. This is a really tough one. Because these are your nieces and nephews, and otherwise they get put into a home, and you're not sure who is going to be watching them. I know it's brutal. And I understand your position. You're about to have a newborn in July. That's just a few months from now, and you've already got a young kid. And I understand you're working your ass off right now. And you only have a 2-bedroom and all these other things, and it's a zoo and everything else associated with it. I'd probably try to take them in. I would. I mean, if you just think about – so take it out of your world, and I understand how difficult it's going to be, and try to put it in the world of these kids. Their mom, and they're young kids, relatively speaking. Like, my wife was just away for the weekend, and my youngest kid was missing his mom, like crazy for that. So if you've ever been a young kid or you've been around young kids, think about the difficulty of what they are going through. And think about the value that you can be of stability in their life and what your wife can be for them. You are just an absolute saving grace for them. Also, I think, and I don't know what she did, and I don't know what the judge is going to say at sentencing, but unless it's a violent crime, I also think that the judge is likely to see these young children, see what is happening when it comes to the sentencing with your pregnant wife going in. If she can go into that courtroom and be like, yes, I will take these 3 kids while their mom is in prison. This is one of my big things, when I worked in the criminal justice system. Let me get on a soapbox here for a minute. The idea of our criminal justice system is twofold, and I think it's a real tension that exists out there. Are we punishing or are we rehabilitating? And this is not an easy answer, right? Because the answer is, well, we're trying to do a little bit of both when we put somebody behind bars in prison. We're punishing them for what they do, but we would also like for them to rehabilitate their lives while they are in prison. And again, I don't know what this woman did, but I always look at things, if I were a judge, in terms of the overall equity and societal benefit here. This woman may have misbehaved and may well deserve some punishment, but also her kids are going to be punished as much or more by her sentence as she is. And so when you look forward to the next decade or 20 years of what society is going to be, is society net benefited by this woman going behind bars, which may make her kids more likely to one day be behind bars as well because they aren't with good caretakers? Or is society more benefiting by punishing this woman? And this is not something unique to American life. If you studied history at all, it used to be that do you ever hear of debtor's prison? The idea used to be that if you went bankrupt, you would have to go to prison. And the idea was, well, we're going to make sure people never go bankrupt because we're going to hold the danger of them going to prison over their head. And then gradually people say, wait a minute. When you put somebody in prison, you guarantee that they can't make a living. So does it make sense economically to take a guy who is in debt and not allow him to try to pay off his debts, but to hold him accountable for having lost money? And so we did away with the concept of debtor's prison. Never exists now. Nobody, you can go bankrupt. You might not be able to afford to get an apartment. You might not be able to afford to buy a place, but you never go to jail. So I think what would happen is if your wife, who is pregnant, and if she's due in July, she's probably starting to show now, and she's got a young kid with her already. If she goes in there and the DA understands what's going on and the public defender understands what's going on, I think there's a good chance you could get leniency on behalf of the mom, partly because of what your wife is willing to do. And I understand it's brutal for you, and this woman's probably not bringing anything to bear, but my advice would be try to make it happen. I know it's a lot on you, and I know how tough it is, trust me, when you have a young baby.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
Going to get to your calls, anonymous mailbag, live on the radio. Let's go to California. What's up, California?
California just dropped. Let's go to Florida.
Let's go to Florida. What's up, Florida? I swear to God, I'm going to strangle someone to death over our phone system. What's going on there, Dub?
I don't know. I lost you guys briefly for about 10 seconds and it reconnected, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
Let's go to Eddie. Let's see if we can find out how the phones are going to work. Is there anybody else who runs a national show that has phones fail more frequently than me? Is there anybody in the history of national radio, going back to like 1940, that has had a less reliable phone system than me? I find it hard to believe. I think before there was television, could people call into the radio and get put on the radio then? I bet back in the 1940s that it was more reliable than our current radio system. California, Florida, Louisiana, Kentucky, I'm trying to go to you. If you're there, hang on. Or call back during this break and see if I have no idea what's going on. 877-996-6369 is the phone number. Honestly, at times I think, why do I even try to take calls? Am I in the wrong to wonder? This is my own anonymous mailbag question for myself. Should I just abandon all attempts to ever take calls on this show? Or do people enjoy my frustration when the phones don't work so much, even more than they enjoy the calls? I don't know. I really don't. All right, Eddie, what you got for me?
Well, we want to remind you first that online car shopping can be confusing, and sometimes the phones here as well, but not anymore with True Price from True Car. Now you can know the exact price you'll pay for your next car, so visit True Car and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. In the NBA last night, we had the Celtics blowing out the Warriors in Oakland, 128-95. Golden State gets a 33-point loss. That's the worst ever under head coach Steve Kerr. Gordon Hayward, 30 points off the bench to lead Boston to their most impressive win of the season. Rockets beat the Raptors in Toronto 107-95. James Harden, 35 points. That includes 19 in the fourth quarter alone in the win for Houston. 76ers beat the Magic 114-106. Orlando drops a half game back of Charlotte and Miami for the final playoff spot in the East. Timberwolves top the Thunder 131-120. Karl Anthony Towns, 41 points for Minnesota. College basketball, 11 ranked teams were in action, including 5 of the top 10. They all won. Victories for number 3 North Carolina, number 4 Duke, number 5 Tennessee, number 6 Kentucky, and number 9 Michigan State. Number 11 Purdue lost to Minnesota 73-69. 13th ranked Kansas fell to Oklahoma 81-68. The Jayhawks streak of 14 straight Big 12 titles comes to an end. And number 14 Florida State beat number 15 Virginia Tech 73-64. In the NHL tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights will host the Calgary Flames at 9 Eastern. In tonight's Discover Card Key matchup, Discover alerts you if they find your social security number on thousands of risky websites. It's free for card members. Just sign up online at discover.com/free alerts. Limitations apply. We'll be back to Outkick the Coverage in 10 seconds, but first, a word from Farmers.
At Farmers Insurance, we know a roof can withstand a lot. One exception being an airborne car. Seen it, covered it. Talk to Farmers.
We are Farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
Now back to Clay Travis and the Geico Outkick the Coverage studios.
It's the Anonymous Mailbag Live Hour 2 on the radio, Wednesday edition. We do it every single week at this time. California, let's see if the phones are working. California, what you got for me?
Hey, Clay. So the California court, they gave my son to his mother's ex-boyfriend.
All right, hold on a sec. So this is a custody dispute?
Okay, yeah.
All right, so the California court is deciding who should have custody of a child, and they gave it to you. They gave your kid to to the mother's ex-boyfriend?
Yes.
What, were you trying to get custody?
I've spent 4 years in court. It's still going on, just trying to get a DNA test. That just happened in January.
So how old's the kid?
He's 9 now. When I first met my son, I didn't know. The mother and the ex-boyfriend, in my opinion, kidnapped my son. They didn't tell me about him until he's 5 years old, while they were living with my daughter. And so then they broke up. And the guy filed a paternity suit for my son, even though he knows it's not his son. He claimed to be biological father, even though we've already proven through court record that he had his own DNA test done when my son was 1. But none of that matters to the California courts. They're saying that California decided he's the father, and because the mother wouldn't agree that she signed a legally binding agreement when the boy was born, the court's punishing her.
All right, thanks for the call. This is really complicated. Like, I'm a lawyer, but when you call in with specific state legal issues, I'm not an expert on that, and my advice in general is that you should go get counsel in your state to represent you in conflict-related issues such as those, okay? Having said that, if you are the biological father of this child, there should be a mechanism by which you can prove that. You need to get the right attorney. It sounds like there's a lot of complicated issues here, but the family court system is trying to work towards the most just outcome, even if it may be frustrating to you due to the bureaucracy, due to the fact that the court system is often overloaded. And I can't speak particularly to this situation, but it sounds like there is a dispute between who is considered to be the father. And I don't know what happened to the mother in this case and how she has become out of the equation. But there's a dispute over who the father in this case is. And also, I would imagine if this kid is 9, this kid may have been raised thinking that the man who currently has custody over him is his child throughout this entire proceeding. So I think the court's trying to get it right. But I would encourage you to get the best possible attorney you can in your particular state, which is California, here to try to resolve it. Florida, what's up?
Hey, Clay. So just recently found out my wife and I are expecting our first child.
Congratulations.
Very exciting. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. The situation is, because with now with a child on the way, my wife wants to move closer to family, which is understandable.
Yep.
And I'm actually happy about it because it happens to be closer to my family, which is where I grew up in South Florida. So I currently live, or we do, in northern Florida. My job has an office a couple miles away from where I grew up. How do I go about talking to my company about moving down there? I think the move is a simple ask, but the second ask, because of cost of living, I'm going to need a lot more money. So I guess, how do I go about asking both of those things? Because where's the benefit for them, really?
Yeah, thanks. I think you might have to balance out lifestyle with money. And I can't speak to how good you are at your current job in the northern part of Florida, wanting to move to the southern part of Florida. Obviously, depending on where you live in South Florida, the cost of living can be substantially higher. And I understand that as being an issue, certainly as you have your first child. But I would focus more on getting the job status that I want in a particular location than I would on the money right now. Because I think once you get to South Florida and start doing a good job, then you can focus on the fact of, hey, I need a raise. But I think going to your boss and saying, hey, I want to be transferred and I want more money in my new location, that certainly is your desire, but I think it's tough to demand both. Does that make sense? I mean, think about it from the boss's perspective. If you're doing a good job at your job now, it's a lot. He may be able to say, okay, I can afford to lose you to South Florida. If you're saying I need to go to this new location and I need to make more money there, then I think that's a tougher ask. So my suggestion would be, it seems like your primary goal is be closer to your family for the birth of your first child so that you have better family support and everything else, which makes a lot of sense. Some people may roll their eyes over that. I was one of those people. Until you have a kid, you don't realize how great it is to be close to your family oftentimes. And so I completely get that, but I would focus on getting the transfer more so than I would focus on the demand for a raise. Louisiana, what you got for me?
All right, hey man. I'm basically I'm a psych major and I graduated in May at Louisiana Tech. But long story short, my dad raised me, and my parents did. But my dad is a good guy, pouring out for kids and stuff. Like, not trying to name drop, but like Booger McFarland's one of his first kids, and like my roommate in college was Mingo, and so like Odell and all them, that was kind of my crew. Well, I ended up going to secondary ed because I couldn't make an impact in like college, with the players and stuff. So I ended up going to secondary ed and saw myself handcuffed by the system. I couldn't really be able to help kids, And when I transferred, I was finishing psychology. Well, now I realize sports psychology is actually a thing. And I have kind of a social work job after graduation set up so I could pay for grad school. But down here, and I'm from Western Road, but down here, like, sports psychology is not a thing because, like, if someone don't want to play, they'll just be like, he's mentally assaulted or something, and that's not okay with me. And so, and I also say along the way, I went through, like, some battles like addiction and stuff throughout the way, and so I really fall in the psych field and want to help people and realize what they go through, especially kids, and so I've heard it said I'd much rather always coach a group of orphans because I'm sick of, like, coaching kids' parents and stuff like that. And so I'm just wondering, like, how would you, it's a lot of stuff, but how would you navigate grad school and, like, sports psychology? Because I know, like, up north it's a lot more prevalent. Does it make sense?
Thanks for the call. Well, I do think that the psychological side of sports is becoming a more prevalent point of discussion lots of places. Right? I mean, I think there are a lot of pro athletes who see sports psychologists who help them deal with the stress and anxiety and complications that come with being a high-level athlete. I think it's less common for younger athletes. And I think that, frankly, is because a lot of younger athletes might need psychologists because of the challenges in their life more than they need the sports psychological realm. And my guess would be in states like Louisiana, states like Tennessee, where I live, where there's less economic resources often, you're trying to handle complicated factors like that without focusing on the world of sports. So that was a complicated question. I'll come back and talk about it a little bit more. I'm not sure exactly what kind of advice I can give, particularly that would guarantee you to be able to get a setup there that makes sense. But in general, I think you're right. There are many kids who could use the ability to talk to somebody about their problems.
Be sure to catch live editions of OUTKICK the Coverage with Clay Travis weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and the iHeartRadio app.
What happens if you live in the Czech Republic and you're thinking to yourself, you know what I would like to have in my backyard? Lions. And maybe the Czech Republic isn't that excited about you having lions in your backyard, and you get into a conflict with authorities because they have to give approval for lions in your backyard. And in fact, you are such a believer in the goodness of your lions that this is crazy. Last summer, you were out walking your lioness on a leash, and somebody on a bicycle ran into the lion, and nearly disaster ensued then. But you're like, you know what? I need to keep my lions. I'm going to keep them in the backyard. I've got these enclosures. I've got a lion and a lioness. I'm going to breed them. Well, that's what Michael Prasic decided to do. He had 9-year-old cats, big cats, lions. And what could go wrong when you decide to have lions? Well, he would like to go into the lion cages, according to a couple of these articles, and he would lock the gate behind him, and he would just spend time with his lions. Just hang out with them. Just vibe. Just chill. Some people like to Netflix and chill. Well, Michael liked to lion and chill. And you know what happened? The lions killed him. The lions mauled him to death in his backyard. When people arrived and realized that he was dead, they had to shoot the lions too. It's a tough animal, Thunderdome. Let me cue the music. I haven't even cued the music yet. We got to play the music. But I got a great line. This is maybe the all-time dunk on a dumb guy line delivered by a Czech mayor that I'm going to read to you here in a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just glad I was there.
Boys and girls.
I thought he thought I was like this ginormous piece of chicken.
Dying times here.
I had a boa constrictor stuck to my face.
Sam, you have a what?
This is Animal Thunderdome.
The police had been fighting with this guy over the lions for a while. They couldn't quite figure out how to take them away from him. The mayor was not happy. I wish we had audio of this, at least in English, with a great Czech accent. Tomáš Kokorík is the mayor, and he was asked about the incident, and he said, today's incident, that is the mauling of this guy by lions, will perhaps finally help to resolve this long-term problem. You know it's been a rough time for you when you're killed and the mayor of your Czech Republic town is basically hanging on the rim, gloating over you getting killed by the lions that they've been telling you wasn't safe to have in the backyard. Maybe, again, I'm always terrified by the stat is, this is an amazing stat. There are more tigers in the state of Texas than are currently alive in the wild. There's a lot of you just drove off the road with that stat. People just have tigers as pets all over the state of Texas to such an extent that there are more tigers in the state of Texas than there are in the wild in the rest of the world. I don't know what it is about Texans and tigers or anybody and wild animals. But take a lesson from our man over in the Czech Republic. Keeping lions in your backyard, probably not going to end well, especially if you regularly lock the gate and just go hang out with them. Anyway, lions are dead now, and the man they killed's dead. Danny G, you said you got an incredible video of an elephant sitting down and killing an Indian man.
Yeah, a man was crushed to death by an elephant in his care after he beat it with a stick to make it sit down while he was washing it. Only he slipped on the water, and the elephant sat on top of him.
What a way to go.
The elephant sat down directly on top of him, and he was killed instantly at the animal housing site in southern India. Arun Panikar, 40, was whipping this elephant and got what he got. Another caretaker then runs to Panikar's rescue, also whipping the animal to attempt to make it stand up.
Do you think the animal sat down on him on purpose?
I don't think so.
Based on the video?
He doesn't seem bothered, though, when he gets up. The animal stands up, and it appears to have Panikar's blood on his back. Pretty sick video, but that's what he gets for whipping on an elephant.
What a way to go. 40 years old.
2 for 2 for the animals this morning.
Well, the animals, the lions got killed. I assume that the elephant probably got to continue to live.
They at least got to, kill their captor before they got capped.
Yeah, that's true. Probably some value in that. Can you imagine deciding that? And first of all, what demand is there for lions in the Czech Republic such that you would need to breed lions in your backyard in the Czech Republic? It's not like you're breeding, like Labrador retrievers, and people are going to immediately be able to go buy them. Or you got one of those Labradoodles, which cost like $8,000 or whatever the heck they cost now because they're supposed to be hypoallergenic. Can't even keep up with all that stuff.
Be sure to catch live editions of OUTKICK the Coverage with Clay Travis weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific.